covering today, here's a bit about precision nutrition and why we've picked them. So PN are the world's largest body transformation project. They started about the year 2000, which is the same year I entered the fitness industry, and I didn't find them for 6 or 7 years after they started, and I just saw the number of experts that I already followed in the field of strength and conditioning and stuff like that who were referring back to these guys. So that kind of piqued my interest because they were people I already looked up to, and the list just snowballed of all these people that I was already seeking advice from, and they were seeking nutrition advice from them. So they've coached over 200,000 people. That's more like 250,000 now from over 100 countries. They have helped more people lose more weight than every contestant on every series of The Biggest Loser ever produced, and more importantly, they've kept it off. It's not this sudden 3-month project where they're exercising 3 times a day, and they've got a structured environment and they've got nutritionists right at hand, and then they leave The Biggest Loser house and they can't cope with it because it's unrealistic. These guys teach you what we're going to cover in a second is habit-based coaching. So, who has a bit of a goal to improve a part of their body? Yeah? Does anyone either perhaps want to lose a bit of body fat or maybe gain a little bit of muscle, or both? Yeah? Read that quote. Nutrition is always the limiting factor in body transformation. Always. No doubts about it. And I include myself and anyone else who's tried to transform their body in any way. Nutrition is always a limiting factor. So remember that. It's not extra cardio you need. It's not some whiz-bang routine that the latest trainers released, or some high-intensity interval training fad. It's nutrition. You've got to put the focus on that. It's too commonly glossed over because it's harder to change habits and aspects of nutrition than it is to just ignore it and maybe this exercise class or this type of exercise is the thing that I've been missing. No, it's nutrition. It always has been. Habits. So, have you ever missed out on reaching a goal because you were overwhelmed, maybe had too much info to sort through in the first place? Has anyone suffered from that before? Yeah, heads nodding. Here's a powerful principle, as one precision nutrition teach, and exponentially increases your chances of success, and not just a little bit. If you apply these principles, your chances of success are above 80%. You only quite half get it right, you try and take on too many things at once, your chances of success are going to plummet down to about 35%. If you take on even more still, your chances of success are basically zero. And you're going to see that in a second. It changes your psyche and your mindset from maybe this will work to this is totally going to happen. So, habit-based coaching is a single but powerfully important idea, and it's what we've been teaching you guys for about the last year, our own PN group, but clients in general for about the last 8.5 years. And it's focusing on less helps you achieve more. You may need to increase your protein intake in vegetables, you might need to time your carbs better, you might need to drink more water, you might need to cut down on junk food, but trying to change those things all at once is a recipe for failure. So as much as you may need to, you've got to kind of prioritise and usually pick the thing that you're going to find the easiest to change, and you focus on that, and then choose it for a period of time, and usually what we do based on their advice is we choose a habit for around a fortnight. Is this ringing any bells? Yeah, we've always got you guys to focus on a habit to change at a fortnight at a time, and by doing that, it gives you time to just focus on that one thing, get it right, move on to the next habit, and hopefully not forget the last habit. Sometimes that does that. The only way you'll form long-lasting habits by by applying the power of less, and you can see that power of less is in capitals. The Power of Less is a book by this guy Leo Babuda. I've given it to Joy to read, and it's a book that PN highly recommends. It's not very thick, so it doesn't take you too long to read. But the Power of Less, and this guy Leo Babuda, he kind of developed the process of habit-based change, and PN adopted that and thought, this guy's awesome, he's onto something here. And experts all around the world now get this guy to speak at different seminars and conferences. He's become very successful himself because in the space of 12 months, he went from $50,000 in debt, smoker, marriage problems, and really poor health, not just due to his smoking, but he got himself completely out of debt, launched a six-figure business. He quit smoking. He ran 2 marathons and did a triathlon. He improved his marriage, and for everyone that sort of says, that's easy for him, I've got kids. He had 6 kids trying to do all that, and he did it in the space of a year. So people stood up and took notice, and what he came to find was, the only way you'll form long-lasting habits is by applying the power of less, focus on one habit at a time, one step at a time, so that you'll be able to focus all your energy on that one habit. And I think he initially changed all his habits at a month at a time, and PN's now reduced that kind of focus period to about a fortnight, and that's why we adopted as well. So PN's about habit-based coaching, and this is not all going to be staring at text on the screen. We're going to see some exciting pictures. So stay with me. Research has shown that when you try to change a single behaviour at a time, the likelihood that skill, you retain that habit for a year or more is change one habit, greater than 85%. Try and change 2 habits at once, less than 35%. Try and change 3 habits at once, less than 10%. It's going to stick. So, there's reason to stand up and take notice of what this guy's doing and why PN's adopting that kind of philosophy. So, what we want to try and cover in the next 40 minutes or so are the 10 rules of PN. And I'm not sure that everyone know that, but basically every fortnight we pick one of those 10 rules. And you're going to see in a minute that there's one of the rules is protein, one of the rules is vegetables, one's about fats, and so on. But there's a few others that probably aren't as well known. And you're going to see those over the course of this year. So 10 rules of PN, the 2 types of PN meals. There's really only 2 types of meals you should be eating, and we're going to cover that in a second. Portion control, PN style, and how that ties into calories, because calories are important, but they can be a real, can't think of another word other than mindfuck. They can be a real head game for a lot of people, and it is important, but sometimes not as important as some people think. So hopefully we can cover that all in the next 40 minutes or so. It says quiz there, but I was meant to say Q&A. I think that was my so 10 rules. The first one that we normally go over, which I'm a little bit more open to flexibility on these days, is eating every 2 to 3 hours, no matter what. Now, the reason that we've picked that, or the reason that that's first, is they find that when the longer you leave your meals, if you're going to leave it 5, 6, 10, 12 hours, the stats show the longer you leave it to eat, the more likely you're going to be to reach for something that's not as healthy as it should be. If you rely on willpower and then your hunger hormones start to kick in, and eventually you just go, right, I've got to eat, I need to go and eat, you're probably going to reach for the closest or the most available thing, and that's not always obviously the best thing. That's always something that we've promoted. It helps balance your hormones, your blood sugar levels, and it helps you usually make better choices, reach for something healthier. It also helps your digestive system, because if you're eating that often, and that's usually going to be 5 to 6 meals in a day, if you're eating that often, you're going to have to reduce the size of your meals, so it's not as big a toll on your digestive system. However, over the last few years, I've been a bit more flexible on that, and so too have PN, because ultimately, we talked about calories before. Calories matter, and it's also lifestyle factors. So if you've got a hugely busy lifestyle and a hugely busy day, and you just you physically don't have time to eat every 2 to 3 hours and stop and eat a decent meal every 5-6 times a day, which plenty of people don't, you can still make it work. You can make it work with 2 to 3 good meals a day. Obviously, you can afford to eat slightly larger meals than someone who's eating more frequently. But what you've got to do is you've got to find what works for you. And if you're eating generally 2 to 3 meals each day and it's not working for you, that's when we'll probably refer you back to this rule, and maybe it needs to be that you eat smaller portions but more frequently. So pretty flexible on that one these days, but there's a method in finding out which method's going to work best for you. This is probably one of the most important. Eating lean protein every time you eat. The key word there being lean. We've already covered that habit this year, and it was the first one we covered for a reason. Protein's the building block for life. Helps you, generally if you're trying to strip down, and I reckon, what do you reckon, Joy? We often talk about this, that there's probably 80%, at a guess, of the people that come here at least, more, higher?
90. Are you going to say wanting to strip down?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wanting
90.
to lose fat.
Yeah.
And that includes people who have never told us that goal,
Yeah.
and might tell us a goal that they're really keen to do this or that, but we know what they're really thinking is that they just want to lose a bit of punch, they want to lose a bit of fat, and they want to look, more, they want to feel more comfortable in their clothes. And when you're trying to strip down and you're trying to strip body fat, you are going to lose muscle mass with it. And one of the ways you're going to hang on to and retain as much muscle mass as you can is to weight train and eat plenty of lean protein. Because if we lose muscle mass in the process of losing weight, it's only going to slow your metabolism down further, and that's going to lead to a rebound weight gain at some point. So eating lean protein, that's definitely rule 2, and one that we always kick the year off with. Next one is the one we're currently focused on, which is eat vegetables every time you eat. Does anyone know just one reason why we picked that rule? Surely someone does.
Fiber. Acidic.
Specific?
The acid level.
Yes, Joe. Good, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Veggies are acid neutralising. Veggies are acid neutralising. So protein and grains and dairy, they can leave your system very acidic, and they're things that we do need, but if that's all you eat, it can leave your system very acidic. So vegetables are very alkaline and they help balance the pH levels out in your body. I thought the obvious one that someone might say is like vitamins and minerals. It's the one that usually gets called out. But veggies are also super low in calories. They fill you up and you consume hardly any calories for your work. So if you're going to see this in a moment, if you fill your plate largely with veggies and protein, you're going to go a long way to feeling full without having added much in the way of calories. Rule 4, if you want to eat a carb that's not fruit or veggies, e.g. rice, pasta, potatoes, etc., you can, but save it for after exercise. So those starchy carbs, which is a rule we've covered before, and there's a few of you nodding, it's not like you have to cut bread out of your diet. You don't have to cut bread, you don't have to cut pasta, you can eat rice, you can have oats. They're all good foods, but there's just times where your body tolerates them better, especially if you have a fat loss goal. If you have a muscle gain goal, I know we've gone over that with Joe, eat the house down with those things, Joe. Lean protein, veggies, and that stuff for you. That'll help you add some clean bulk. Rule 5, ditch the calorie-containing drinks. Anyone consume those over the weekend? Any at all? No? Tequila? That's pretty low calorie. but-
Straight.
Yeah, no, you had a good night out, I saw. Yeah,
Okay,
I
just straight clean.
did. I did, and I did it guilt-free, but it doesn't just include alcohol. Things like store-made coffees. If you're having a black coffee or homemade coffee, it's a hell of a lot less than a Gloria Jean's coffee or barista-made coffee. But also things like juices and soft drinks and things like that, they can add up very quickly. So the best bet is water and green tea, which is not as exciting, but how bad you want it.
My fave.
10 rules continued. Develop food prep strategies. You don't have to be this, Tupperware guru, but some Tupperware in your house will come in very handy at times to develop some food prep strategies. And we've talked about that a lot over the last 8 years, and they've evolved for me. What I used to do 2 years ago was different to what I did 4 years ago. And some of those things I still do, some of them I flick, and I've got other methods that I guess they're no better or worse, they just work for me better now, where I'm at now in my life. So, developing some food prep strategies can help following the other rules a hell of a lot easier. If you've got to eat lean protein and vegetables and things like that at every meal, but you don't have it on hand or you don't have any prepared, it makes life a bit trickier. But a little bit of food prep goes a long way. I'm going to cover some food prep this year, which we've done before with some food prep workshops at my house. So if you're keen for that, I'll chat about it later. Focus on whole foods. I was going to cover that just briefly before, but something I just did, I think when Joe rocked up, remember I was having a drink, had a shaker cup with water and protein powder in it. Great, useful snack meal for me to have. Low in calories, good lean protein, but relying on that stuff all the time is lazy sometimes, but it's also, there are a lot better choices that you're going to get if you implement more of a focus on eating whole foods where you can. Things like the powders and bars and things like that, they have their place, but I've known guys who, especially younger guys who perhaps trying to bulk up, who hardly eat a real meal all day and they're just focused on shakes and things like that, and they could probably do better to just include some focus on whole foods at times. 8 is balance daily food choices with healthy variety. Variety, spice of life, all that. You've heard that kind of that phrase before, but I'm going to give you some handouts at the end today that you can start implementing straight away, which is a really useful list. It's the 21 superfoods to start trying to incorporate in your diet, because if you include those 21 foods, and it will be interesting to just have a look at it at the end and see how many you're already eating, but it's going to give you a really healthy variety of different types of lean proteins and different types of healthy fats and vegetables that will cover all sorts of macro and micronutrients that you need to be at your best. So a bit of variety always helps. 9, a good percentage of your diet must come from fat. Just be sure it's the right kind. There's actually 3 types of fat. You may have heard of saturated fat. There's polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fats. They're the 3 main types. I'm not going to go into a science lesson about those 3 types, but generally, 1/3 of your diet should be fat, and 1/3 should come from each source, even the saturated ones. So saturated ones are the ones that we tend to think of as bad fats, that typically come from animal fats, but also things like coconut, which people often think is a healthy fat. That's a saturated fat, and your body does need a certain level of saturated fats, but if that's the bulk of your diet, then you're going to have some internal problems that you need to balance out with some of the poly and monounsaturated varieties. The ones we tend to think of as healthy fats. So 1/3 of your diet roughly is fat, and 1/3 saturated, 1/3 mono, and a third poly. We'll talk about those maybe later if we get a chance. Last rule, the one that everyone likes the most, they're called 10% foods. Now what that means is, if you're following rule number 1, and you eat every 2 to 3 hours, that's going to be about 5 to 6 meals each day. That equates to about 42 meals a week. Now, you don't need to adhere to your diet 100% of the time to get good results. But you do have to adhere to it pretty well. And PN reckon that if you can apply a 90-10 kind of ratio, where if 90% of the time you're following those kind of rules, 10% of the time, lash out, eat whatever you want. You know, eat your ice cream, eat your chocolates, have your alcoholic drinks, have, whatever your heart desires. But the only way you're going to know if you're not blowing that 10%, that 90-10 rule, is by doing a little bit of tracking. And so if you're eating 42 meals a week, that equates to about 4 meals every week where you can blow the budget a little bit. So that covers the 10 rules of PN. Now, next up, there's 2 main types of meals that they promote. Now, you probably can't see those real well now, but we're going to enlarge them in a second. We've got the anytime meal on the left, and then we've got the post-workout meal on the right. Take close note of the green one on each picture. The green one is veggies. On the right, it's actually veggies and fruit, but let's just think of that fresh produce, like veggies. It's 2/3 of the plate. So an anytime meal, if you're eating 5 to 6 meals a day, probably 5 of them would look like that. 2/3 of your plate full of veggies. Now the difference is post-workout, there's a little bit less in terms of the veggies and fruit. There's a bit more in terms of the protein. And this little circle up on the right-hand side here, that's called starches. That's those, if you want to eat a carb that's not fruit or vegetables, save it for when? Post-workout. So zooming in on those a bit closer, there's the anytime meal. Protein, 1/4 of your plate. Veggies, 2/3, and fats makes up the rest. That's water up in there. Top there. Water on there, yeah. Now zooming in a bit closer on the post-workout meal. Need that protein. Does anyone know why we need protein after a workout? Sorry?
Repair and rebuild.
Exactly right. Repair and rebuild. When you're lifting weights, you're tearing the muscles down. So they need to repair. And what do we say about proteins? Building block of life. So you need that protein. If ever you're going to eat your protein, do it after a workout. But as Jo knows, well, she can eat them whenever, but we covered the starch rule. That's when you can afford to eat those starchy carbs, your pastas, rices. And really, if you live your life by those 2 pictures, and you do it consistently, I would say for at least 3, consistently for 3 months, you can transform your body in 3 months. Now, if you slip a little bit less, and maybe your ratios are 80-20, you're going to make some progress, but maybe it takes you 6 months to really start building an 80-20 type of day into an 85-15, and eventually a 90-10 type of day. But really, we've always said if you give us 12 months of your life to implement some of these things and try and change one habit at a time, 100% guarantee we'll transform anyone. And we've done it countless times over the last 10 years with oxygen, but this is my 20th year in the fitness industry, and you just get those habits lined up and things start to snowball. My record currently is that I've helped someone lose 47 kilos, so it can absolutely work. Post-workout, there is a bit of a plant-based one there as well. Protein from things like, you're probably going to source things like beans and lentils and chickpeas and whatnot. Yes, there's legumes there. Fruit, veggies, starches and fats. So it does work. Tofu is a good one as well. Marinated with tofu. anytime in a post-workout. What we're going to cover over the next probably 15 minutes or so is calories. And that's probably something we don't talk about enough, but Joy and I have both started to cover a bit more with people, because anyone that says calories don't matter has zero credibility. But anyone that says that all that matter has even less credibility. They 100% matter. You guys probably do a little bit of your own research and reading, and stuff like social media these days is great because you can find out information at your fingertips in 5 seconds. But the health and fitness industry is just a shitstorm of information, and it's hard to understand or hard to figure out who to follow sometimes. So, calories. Here's a little bit of a crash course. Calories are the sum of protein, carbs, and fat. Now, I don't know how well you can read that, but 1 gram of fat contains 9 calories, whereas a gram of carbs and protein only contain 4 calories. So if you have a high fat diet, you're already consuming more than twice as many calories as everybody else. But they're the three main macros that we all eat: protein, carbs, and fat. You see the difference there. There's one other. Does anyone know what the other one is? They've probably got high consumption rates over the weekend. Protein, carbs, fats. One other thing. Alcohol. Alcohol's another one. And it's a fairly common part of Aussie society. And alcohol has 7 calories per gram. So when you start to incorporate, less than desirably healthy meals, washed down with a couple of alcoholic drinks, you can see how things start to spiral out of control pretty quickly. So that's why when you drink water, green tea, and it's a 0 calorie drink, it's a pretty big difference. More on calories. Everyone's heard this one, right? You heard that first sentence? Calories in versus calories out. It's all about, eat more calories than you burn if you want to gain weight. Eat fewer calories than you burn if you want to lose weight. Everyone heard that one before? Make sense? It's 100% true. Except, it's not that simple. And this is something we've only had to counteract the last couple of years with technology. First of all, on the calories inside, you do need to figure out how many calories are in the foods you want to eat if you're trying to track calories. But that takes handbooks, websites, database, and maths just to plan your lunch. Give me a break. Who's already short on time in their life? Who wants to spend another couple of hours each day tracking every single thing that they put into their system? It does work for some people, but most people tell us that they're so time poor, they're already really busy. So if you go and add that on top of what you're already trying to do, and you're already a little bit stressed out about the current state of your body, that can add cortisol, stress to your system, and just the act of trying to make things healthier for yourself is actually making things worse because you're so stressed out about whether you got the calories right and whether you calculate things properly. And then you have to assume that the handbooks, websites, and the database calorie estimates are correct. And guess what? They're often not. And that's from Precision Nutrition themselves. Research shows that they can be off by about 25% because of incorrect labelling, lab measurements, and just errors with the process. You go to all that effort and you could be fucking way off. What a waste of time. What a waste of time. And you still don't even know for sure. On the other side of it, you've got the calories out, how much you're expending through exercise. Estimating your calorie expenditure each day comes with another 25% measurement error because of the equipment you're using like Fitbits, Garmin's, technology, as well as the same things we talked about, lab measurements, errors, individual differences. I don't think I've shared it in this one earlier, but I know it's one that Joy and I have covered when we've assessed people's photos on the group before. And there's a photo of an avocado, 100 gram avocado, and then right next to it, doesn't look that much bigger, but it's a 200 gram avocado. And it's a huge difference in calories, huge difference. But to the naked eye, it looks the same. You know, so if you're trying to track calories, and you look at your MyFitnessPal app and it says, how many calories is in an avocado? Well, on average, a medium-sized avocado is this. So you go, oh cool, I ate that avocado, or half that avocado, and it's only 150 calories. But maybe yours was a large size. Maybe yours was 250 calories. So things start to spiral out of control pretty quickly. Done that before? No?
I said maybe it was Karen's.
Didn't count Karen's avocado.
And look, I know what irks me and Joy with calories and technology that tracks it is particular brands of fitness that all they focus on is come and do this class because guaranteed you'll burn 800 calories. They can't guarantee shit. They don't know, for sure, how accurate that technology is, and they don't know based on an 80 kilo man that's 6 foot tall and a 110 kilo guy that's 6'5". It's massively different for what he's going to expend and what I'm going to expend. So, yeah, I know I speak for Joy when we sort of start getting fired up in this session.
I've got so much to say, but I'm trying to.
No, feel free. Fire in, Joy.
Like the thing with the calories, people grossly underestimate how much they eat and grossly overestimate how much they expend. So they think that if they come in here for a day and spend an hour here doing the hard out training, but then they go and do nothing for the rest of the day, they eat good healthy food with all the healthy fats. It's all healthy. I eat really healthy, but I can't lose weight. So you're eating healthy food, but you're eating too much of it, too high in calories.
Does anyone remember a quick pop quiz? 1 gram of protein has 4. Yep. Gram of carbohydrate has 4 calories. What about fats? 9. Joy was just talking about someone who eats a lot, includes lots of healthy fats, but 9 calories per gram versus 4. Definitely need healthy fats, but if you're overloading your plate with it, it doesn't take much for that to start, just snowballing.
And we'll have a portions slide coming up, won't we?
We will?
Yeah.
So when you look at that 25% error on the calories in and the 25% error also on the calories out, that's a huge margin for error. Plus just the mind games and the time consumption of doing it. So luckily, she was going to just cover one more slide. Is it even worth pulling out measuring cups, dusting off the food scales, downloading apps, subscribing to websites with these less than accurate numbers? Yes, you should have an idea of how much food you're eating each day, so you can adjust based on days where you're not as active. You probably shouldn't eat as many calories, but days where you've pumped out some hard, weekend warrior tough sessions, you can afford to eat a few more calories, and you should, to refuel after the workouts that you've put yourself through. But counting calories sucks. No wonder so many people give up and go back to eating the same way they were doing it before. This is hard work. We have done it before for people, and we knew what we were doing. There was just so much extra time for not much extra result. So PN's got a way better system, and their calorie counting is way easier to do. Gauges food portions differently. You don't have to carry scales and measuring cups. All you need is the ability to count to 2 and a hand. You've got 2 hands? Yeah, count to 2, you've got a hand. This is how you measure stuff up. Your palm determines your protein portions. This part here, don't include the fingers, just that little palm of your hand there. Your fist determines what a size or portion of veggies is. Look at your fist, clench those fingers up, don't include your wrist. That's a good size serving of veggies. Your cupped hand determines those carbs that you can add. So, cupped handful of starchy carbs. And your thumb determines your fat portions. That's a hell of a lot less than people think they can have. A thumb-sized serving of avocado or nuts or, oil or something like that.
And sometimes on one plate of someone's meal, we'll see nuts and avocado and something cooked in oil with salmon and eggs. And cheese. Is that a thumb?
One budget. So, portion sizes, real simple. For men, 2 palm-sized servings. See that in the steak there? That's palm size without the fingers included. We can get 1. There is some flexibility to this, but this is going to serve you pretty well. Portion sizes, the fist-sized serving of veggies, that is cauliflower there. So 2 fist-sized servings for men, 1 for women. A thumb-sized serving, or 2 for men, but only 1 for women. And the cupped handful of berries there, 2 for men, 1 for women. Does that make sense? Have a look at your hand again. Palm-sized serve of protein. Make a fist. Fist-sized serve of vegetables. That doesn't include potato, starchy vegetables. It's all your cauliflower, green vegetables, that sort of stuff. Cupped handful of starchy carbs, or carbs in general. And then a thumb-sized serve of healthy fats. That's pretty simple, eh? Now that's every meal. That's every meal. Who feels like that might be a lot of food? Yep. It's amazing when you change the quality of your food, how much you can actually afford to eat. We just talked about veggies before and how low in calories they are. Good lean protein usually as well. It's amazing how much food you can eat when you improve the quality of it. So don't feel as though we're trying to suddenly get you to eat like rabbits. We actually want you to eat lots of good wholesome food. So, this is fun, this part. Spot the difference.
Zoodles.
That's right, they are zoodles. The one on the right, you can see the little green edge. There's zucchini noodles. The one on the left are just pasta noodles. So, let's have a look at the calorie difference. 730 versus 370. Has anyone had zoodles before? They're good, eh? Easy. Has anyone ever overdone them and made it a little soggy? Plenty of times.
Yeah.
But, like most things, when you learn to cook, you fuck it up a few times. It's alright. But once you learn how to, just get it just right, that is a great way to feel like you're having a full-on pasta night with half the calories. Just don't make the mistake of replacing the pasta with a healthy version, the zoodles, and then going, well, here comes the cheese, and sprinkle it all
The
over.
avocado.
Sure, you can use it. And if you look closely, you can see that the cheese is reduced there as well. Another one. We've got a breakfast here, which is pretty similar to one we promote a lot, which is Mates. Does anyone not know what Mates is? It's okay if you don't.
Just remind me what it stands for.
So Mates, this is not actually Mates, it was close. Mates is mushroom, avocado, tomato, eggs, spinach. It's a breakfast we figured out covers all your bases of protein, veggies and healthy fats, and you can do it up so many different ways that when you think you're getting bored of it, one little subtle change, whether that be poached eggs to scrambled eggs or whipping it all together in an omelette, or we've had people who've made it into a quiche before, like a frittata. It's just enough of a change that you can eat it. I think I've eaten that 5 days a week for 3 years. And I'm still not sick of it. But this is not quite Mates. I think that's actually kale there, that green patch. And there's no mushies. But you can see scrambled eggs, there's avo, there's some green kale, there's a bit of tomato. Now, if you just quickly glance at it, you go, oh yeah, identical, pretty simple meals, one for you, one for me. But if you look closely, the calorie difference is huge. Does anyone pick the main reason why? The avo, that's right. It looks as though there's like a quarter to a half an avo on this one, which is probably still too much.
Yeah, way too much.
And that one looks like a whole avo. There's slightly more eggs by the looks of it too. But yeah, huge difference in calories. Huge. Another one. Oh, everyone loves a good coffee, don't they? Who's a skim latte drinker? Yeah, you and me, Catherine. Does anyone drink soy lattes? No. Nathan does? What about chai? Yeah? I don't mind the taste of them.
What about my coffee?
Yeah. I know lots of people who drink chai latte because they think that's the healthier option.
Yeah.
Look at the calorie count. Big difference. Big difference. Now, I both love and hate skim lattes. Been drinking them for, I don't know, 10 years. I love them because they taste great. I hate them because I feel like a homosexual man from Bondi asking for a skim latte. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But that's not who I am. Yeah, or a soy latte. Not that I've ever asked for one of those, but I think just the word latte, just there's something about it. I love it. I usually only try and have one of those a day. Some days I don't have any, but there's been days and there's been periods of my life where I'll smash 5 of those in a day. These days, if I'm going to have a good coffee, I love having a latte. I'll do it once a day. I just drink black coffee. You know how many calories are in black coffee? Like 2. 2 calories. Big difference. And I don't do it for the calories, but I do it because I have a coffee because I want a caffeine hit early in my day to get the day started. And I don't need to spend $5 for starters on coffee, but I also don't need those calories. So that's a pretty common one because most people love coffee these days. Here we go again. This one, you can see that's a complete meal on the right. That's salmon in the middle. That's a full boiled egg split into 2 obviously. I believe they're little sweet potato pieces. There's tomato, there's beans. And on the left, that's a large handful of macadamias. Calorie count. Now look, yes, the one on the right is slightly more, but what do you think is going to fill you up more? What do you think is going to give you more macro and micronutrients? So everyone remember what the macronutrients are? Protein, fat, carbs. Micro is all the other ones that some of you can't even pronounce, but vitamins and minerals and those things. You're going to get way more from the one on the right for what, an extra 19 calories and a much better feeling of fullness and satisfaction. You scoff that handful of macadamias and you're reaching for something else to eat within 10 minutes. Maybe less. Another one. On the left, that is a kilo of watermelon. On the right, one hissy little scoop of chocolate ice cream. That's not a fair fight. It's not a fair fight at all. But I love ice cream. And if I've got it there, I've got to really fight to not destroy the whole tub if it's one of those little tubs. But a lot of the time at night, people just want something sweet after dinner just to satisfy the cravings and go to bed. Now, you're not going to eat a kilo of watermelon probably, but it shows you that the calories are exactly the same for that one small mouthful of ice cream than to eat a whole watermelon. And is watermelon sweet?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Also keep you pretty hydrated on these kind of muggy nights that we've had. Another couple of examples. We're going well. Alright, we've got the clean and the dirty meal. Now, this meal on the
Good, I wanted
left,
to cover this.
it says it's a granola, Greek yogurt, there's some berries in there. I believe this is a assorted fruit juice, it says. But there's fruit, there's chia seeds, some other seeds in there, I believe it says. Versus the one on the right, Macca's meal, hash brown, and a bacon and egg muffin. Now, they both could be better breakfasts. But look at the difference. Calories matter. Calories matter. They're not all that matters, but they matter. So if you think, like Joy said, that you're eating healthy all the time and you can't understand why you're not losing weight, there's probably heaps of foods that you're eating that are healthy, but they're just high calorie meals.
But this also points out too that you don't have to restrict yourself from treats and things like that, like what we said before. Like if you've come to that 10% time, you just want to differentiate between the clean food and the dirty food. Don't give it a name. If you've got a 100 calorie apple and a 100 calorie chocolate bar, and you really want that chocolate bar, is it going to make a difference to what one you eat, calorie wise and weight loss wise? There's going to be the healthier option, and that's the apple, but calorie wise they both contain 100 calories. So if you can afford those calories, have the chocolate bar if you really want it. You don't need to restrict yourself all the time, and that's where those treat meals come in. There's eating for health and eating for calories. We want you to eat for health, but if there's something there that's not the best option like that there, and I'm trying to eat less calories, I'm going for the dirty meal.
If you've had a day and you've had 4 meals of lean protein and vegetables and some avocado or whatever healthy fats, you've had 4 good meals like that, you can probably afford to have whichever one of those ones you want. And just on this, sometimes, I heard this off another great guy to follow for health and fitness advice, Jordan Syatt Fitness, S-Y-A-T-T. Sometimes the win for a person is to resist temptation and not have the Macca's meal. Sometimes that's the win, to resist. Sometimes the win is to give into it. Because if you're that messed up that you think you've failed, if you have a meal like that, sometimes the best thing you can do is eat it. Eat it guilt-free. Get back on track for the very next meal. Food should not have this guilty kind of connotation to it. Sure, if you're whacking down McMuffin meals every day, twice a day, that's all you eat, you probably need to assess things and maybe you should feel a bit more guilty. But if you can't enjoy, a junk Macca's meal every now and then without feeling extreme guilt, there's a bigger problem at heart, that your relationship with food is affecting you mentally. But I thought that was a good one to show. Calorie difference between that. There's a few more examples, I believe. Oh, how good's a Tim Tam? That's 150 grams is probably fill a punnet. I just had a punnet of blueberries in the fridge before. Punnet's usually about 150, 200 grams. So imagine that. That's how big that serving of mixed nuts is, which is definitely more than a handful. But
so easy to eat if you're sitting there.
Absolutely. It's on 2 counts. If you eat them from a jar, it's easy to just plough through them. But it's easy when I think we all heard the advice at some point in the past that a handful of nuts is a good snack. But we know now that a thumbful is more of a better snack. But Tim Tams. Gotta love a good Tim Tam. I don't think I've ever sat down and eaten 9 of them. 9? That's the only packet. Packet's 12, isn't it? Yeah. 9 Tim Tams, big handful of nuts, 900 calories. If I want to down 900 calories, I want the Tim Tams.
Same.
But yeah, nuts are a good health food, but you've got to watch your portion sizes because they are full of fat. Fat has 9 calories per gram. Yeah, like that's another thing.
True.
Dried fruit versus fresh fruit. Huge difference. I think we might even have some dried fruit coming up. Right, this would have happened a bit over the weekend. On the left, 9 vodka lemonades, 9 vodka lemonades, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning, you're on your way home, and you're
I'm
hungry.
in bed after 9 vodka
So you
lemonade.
stop eating at Macca's, you get a Big Mac meal. Now on the right there's a full day of eating. It's not even an especially healthy day, but up the top we've got bacon, eggs, avo, some spinach. Don't know what coffee that is, but a GoPro, that's pretty common. A lot of us here eat that. A Boost juice is normally pretty loaded with sugar.
Really
and
high in calories.
Can't quite see from here. I know that there were sweet potato chips and 2 sausages. Sausages aren't always the leanest form of protein, but there is a good size portion of veggies on the left of that lunch meal. And I'm pretty sure that's a like a spag bowl type meal over here. That's an aero bar, and that was ice cream with a bit of chocolate topping. So it's a full day of eating, and it's not even a completely clean day of eating. But the calorie count, it's 2,500 calories for both of them.
So imagine a full day of eating and then going out for the night.
Yeah.
You're drinking 9 vodka lemonades, I'd be passed out.
A lot of people do that.
A lot of people here in this gym, a lot of people that I just know socially and not even around here, but just that live in Queensland, that live in Sydney, that live in friends I have in Melbourne. They are doing their best to try and get this healthy lifestyle thing going, and Monday to Friday are eating really clean, healthy meals. Come the weekend, that's how their Friday and sometimes Saturday and maybe even sometimes their Sunday looks way too often. So like, even if they ate nothing all week, those 3 nights out, that's just huge. It's just huge. So, and like vodka lemonades are low calorie drinks. If you're having cocktails or even beers, some wines, it's way more than 2,500. Just have shots. Vodka shots.
Yeah.
Here's a few ways to eat less calories. Don't buy trigger foods. I've heard so many people go, I'd just be right if my wife didn't buy the Tim Tams. Come on, man. Have the conversation with your wife if it's that bad. Or take charge of the shopping yourself. Morning fasting. That goes back to that rule we talked about. Eat every 2 to 3 hours. A popular way of eating that's gained a lot of popularity in the last few years is intermittent fasting. There's a number of different ways to do that. There's not eating breakfast or lunch and then having dinner. Some people just skip breakfast and have lunch and dinner. And they replace it with things like in that picture, they'll just have coffee, which helps kind of just ease their hunger and probably keeps them a bit more focused. Find low-calorie treats. Joy's great at this. Joy is great at, she's found a lot of yogurts and ice creams like Halo Top and protein bars and things like that over the last few years and shared it with everybody so that they can still feel like they're having their treats. You're not blowing a ton of calories to have it. And you're not feeling that guilt because you haven't blown your calorie budget that bad. One down the bottom left there, decrease portion size. If you feel like it, give in to the cookie. Maybe you only need a small one. Maybe you only need 1 cookie and not 6. Food is one of the great pleasures of life. And if you're feeling guilty all the time about the things that you're downing, you've got it all back to front.
That decreased portion size as well, I sometimes apply that to starchy carbs. And even say you're just dying, you know how we all love our starchy carbs with rice and pasta, and I'm not a pasta person, but you might be, and you know, you have your hand-sized portion, and then you get to lunch and you're really wanting rice, and you feel like you're going to give into it. Sometimes I have just added a tablespoon, not even that, and just mixed it in, and when you're eating it, it feels like you've had a heap of rice. So if you're one of those people who really struggle to give up those type of starchy carbs, and you've got to have them, because everyone does, everyone has those moments where they're like, I've just got to have that. Can't you agree? Yeah, you think, I've just got to have that. You feel grumpy, just add, just like you could just have a little tablespoon, mix it in, and it feels like you've had it. You get the taste of it, you get the feel of it, but you haven't overdone the calorie intake. It's another little trick I use.
This one in the middle, eat low-cal, high-volume foods. Vegetables and fruits are going to fill you up, give you lots of micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, and they're going to add stuff or calories to your day. And that is why on both of those two types of meals, anytime and post-workout, your plate is at least half full of veggies. One last one for ways to eat less calories. Low-calorie condiments. Sometimes I'll see someone have a great looking salad and they've blown it with, I was talking with someone, I think Joe earlier, about they've added feta, avocado, cheese, nuts, all this other stuff, that high-calorie stuff. Sometimes that's not the case. It's a good-looking salad, but someone's just added a heap of like dressing, a heap of dressing. You actually need way less dressing than you think to give a salad flavour. But you can also look at other things like low-calorie condiments like soy, ginger, flavours like that add huge flavour to a salad or to a meal without too much in the way of calories. Also look at herbs and spices. We're just about done here, guys. Remember, when your body is hungry, it wants nutrients, not calories. You're going to get nutrients from those low-calorie, high-volume foods. Fruits and vegetables being high on that list. I had it open for Q&A, but it's 6:29, and what I might do is I'll post this video to our PM page. I encourage you to go back and look at it. I'm going to review it again tomorrow and cut out some of the important pieces of the last hour that we've talked about that I think people could benefit from. But I hope you got something out of that. And we'll touch on parts of that again over the next 11 months of 2020. And if you can employ even 3/4 of what you've heard there today, you will 100% transform your body the way you want to in 2020. Cool.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.